Welcome back to another edition of the Bombers Beat podcast. I am your host, Jaime Eisner, and let's break down what was unfortunately a second consecutive loss to the Arizona Diamondbacks at home. And it became a close game late thanks to Anthony Volpe's 3-run home run in the ninth inning, the second game in which the Yankees get a ninth inning home run. But it wasn't quite enough as the Bronx Bombers fall 4-3. And if you want to use a word to describe the story of this game, it's strikeouts. The Yankees struck out 16 times overall, 13 times to Zac Gallen, who bounced back from a rough opening day start for Arizona to come in here. 6.2 innings pitched, 3 hits, no walks, 13 Ks. He has not given up an earned run against the New York Yankees in his career. It's a little bit of a fun fact. Has not given up a single earned run against the Yankees. And really shut them down all night long, had them flailing at his knuckle curve pretty consistently across the board. You know, as you looked at the Yankees lineup, every single member of the starting lineup for the Yankees, aside from Austin Wells, struck out at least once, with Jason Dominguez, Ben Rice, and Aaron Judge leading the way with 3 strikeouts each. It is back-to-back games with 14-plus strikeouts for New York. And they lost both of them and really have gotten all of their runs from the home run. And it's a little bit concerning. There's a few different storylines to talk about coming out of this game. Obviously, the strikeouts are a big one. They ran into, Zac Gallen's a really good starter. I know he's had some road struggles. I know he didn't look great on opening day for Arizona. But there's no shame on getting shut down by Zac Gallen. But to the degree in which they did is a little concerning. The fact that you've now struck out 30 times in 2 games at home, a little bit concerning, even though it is early in the season. You now drop back-to-back games, and it's, you're not quite feeling quite as high as you were feeling coming off of the sweep of Milwaukee with a couple off days in between. You've now got some adversity to overcome. Will Aaron Boone shake up the lineups again? We've basically seen the same lineups in Games 2, Games 3, Games 4, and Games 5. Will we see a lineup that looks more like Game 1? Will Aaron Boone start giving out off days? Austin Wells has played every game to start this year behind the plate. Will we see J.C. Escara get an opportunity there? Will we see other opportunities come in for other players? Will Judge be the DH and maybe you're going to have Jason Dominguez sit down for a game? We're going to kind of see what the Yankees do to kind of switch things up here. One out of necessity, given they're going to play 9 games in a row anyway. So this is one of those things where you're going to have to make some of these lineup calls regardless. But got to shake things up for your offense a little bit. And, I know if you just look at the box score at the end of the game, you see 4-3, you think it's a close game. And, of course, I don't want to take anything away. Anthony Volpe puts a great swing on A.J. Puck, who was thought really highly of coming into the season as a guy that would, be the Diamondbacks closer, at least until, Martinez takes over that role. Gives up a home run to Ben Rice last night. Solo shot didn't really matter. Here he gives up a 3-run home run that put the game at least in a little bit of doubt for Arizona in the 9th inning. So I'm not sure we're going to see A.J. Puck again in this series if you're the Yankees. But this wasn't a close game. This wasn't a 1-run game. The Yankees got thoroughly beat. And I think it started with Carlos Rodon. And, he kind of had a tale of 2 halves there because those first few innings were rough. He looked like he didn't have any control of his slider whatsoever. Didn't have control of his footing. And I think a lot of that you can attribute to the rain that was coming down to start this game. Didn't feel like he had grip on the ball. You could kind of see him looking at his hands, wiping his hands a lot after making pitches. Like, he just did not look like a pitcher in sync and in tune with his body. And a lot of that was because of the rain. But he picked it up. He had a stretch in that game where he got 10 consecutive Diamondbacks out late. He ends up going 6 innings, allowing 3 hits, 4 walks, 4 earned runs. And obviously, it all started in the first inning as Diamondbacks jumped on a Luis Gurriel 2-run home run. Second inning, they added a couple more. And so very quickly, and that was it for the scoring. The combination of Carlos Rodon from that point and Yoendrys Gomez, who pitched 3 really strong innings in relief at the back end of this game to help save using multiple arms in the bullpen, shut down the D-backs after that. I mean, Arizona only had 3 hits in this game. I mean, I think that's the crazy part. If I told you the Diamondbacks would have a grand total of 3 hits in this game and no hits against the bullpen, you would thought the Yankees would have won this game pretty handily. And walks were a problem. Control was a problem. Control was a problem even for Gomez, out of the bullpen as well. But too little, too late. New York found themselves down 4-0 after an inning and a half of play and couldn't really ever get to Zac Gallen enough. They couldn't string hits together to catch up. And it's an unfortunate way to drop your second game of the season. And, as you kind of look back at like what you want to take away from this game moving forward, I think, Rodon settled down a bit. I was really concerned as we were, in that third inning and the velo on his four-seamer was down. It was in the 91, 92, 93 range. He had a flat fastball that was underneath his typical velocity range that was taken out of the yard by Lourdes Gurriel, in the first inning. That there's basically a meatball high and right center cut down the plate that left the yard right away. And it started to look like this was going to be a disaster of a start for Rodon, and maybe even a start that you start to go back and question about, is he hurt? Is there something wrong? Why is the velocity down? But he really got it back. The velocity came back, the control came back, the strikeouts came back, and his overall game came back. And in that, the back half of his start looked a lot like he did in opening day, and not like he did in these first couple of innings. So at least you're encouraged by that heading into his next potential start. But it was a frustrating game to watch. And unfortunately, I realized that a lot of you weren't able to watch this game. There was, because it was an Amazon Prime game, and a lot of those in the New York market had some issues where they were getting blocked out, even though they have Prime and it is the primary broadcast. No pun intended there, I guess. It is the primary broadcast in that market. I know there were some issues with people needing Prime and MLB TV in order to watch this game, and it was a complete mess. So I realized that there are a lot of you out there that said, screw it, we'll follow along, but we're not going to go through the hassle of trying to figure out what we have to buy just to watch the Yankees play their 5th game of the season. But it was a disappointing performance all around, and I think the final score is not indicative of just how badly the Yankees felt like they got beat in this game, even with their late comeback. So I'm really interested to see what Aaron Boone and company do to finish out this series. You play one more game here at home tomorrow night, 7:05 Eastern. You have Carlos Carrasco going up against Merrill Kelly, and then you hit the road. You have 3 games in Pittsburgh to start out again. So I'm interested to see who. And I believe that Pittsburgh game, it's an afternoon game. It is a 4:12 p.m. game there on the 4th. And you'll see Max Fried hit the mound for there against, right now is supposed to be Mitch Keller on the other side. So I'm interested to see who gets some off days here. And we might see a vastly different lineup in terms of construction and in terms of just the personnel inside of it for the game tomorrow night. But it's a disappointing. But I think you start to look at this team, and you got to ride the wave a little bit. I know it's overreaction week. They weren't going 162-0 after they swept the Brewers. They're not going to lose their next 159 games after losing those first 2 to Arizona. So it's you kind of have to find an equilibrium. But I do think that some of the concerns that you may have had coming in, are they too lefty heavy, and particularly late in games when they're going to get matched up against a lot of power lefties? Will they strike out a little bit too much? Is the top of the lineup going to be consistent in, particularly in that leadoff spot where Goldschmidt, has not been good these last couple games in that spot? I think some of those concerns have shown themselves, but I also think you have to be encouraged by, obviously, aside from the 8th inning game yesterday, 8th inning game on Tuesday, the bullpen's been really good. And I know, obviously, they literally lost the game because of the bullpen on Tuesday, so I don't want to sweep that under the rug, but in general, the bullpen has been very, very good. And I think, and from a variety of different arms, again, getting 3 quality innings despite the walks from Yuendrys Gomez in this game was a good sign. Kept the Yankees at least within potential striking distance, and they made a run at it there in the bottom of the 9th. But that part I'm encouraged with. But we need to see the strikeouts go down a bit. That we know throughout the lineup, and I think we might need a little bit of a lineup shakeup. And that's not to say that if they won this game, you don't touch the lineup. It's more so of, I think we're due because of guys needing some off days. And because we really haven't seen much lineup variance, really. I mean, we saw the big lineup variance from game 1 to game 2, and obviously game 2 they hit the million home runs and they scored 20 runs, and I get why you want to keep that lineup together, but I would, well, I mean, in normal circumstances, I wouldn't mind seeing Austin Wells lead off again. I'm not sure he's going to play tomorrow, here or later today. Might get a rest here as we're recording this right after the game. But if he doesn't get a rest, I would like to see him at the top of the lineup. And we're going to have to see what some of these other guys, some of these young guys are able to do off the bench, because when is Judge going to DH a bit? Are we going to have Bellinger start a game at first if Goldschmidt needs a day off? Goldschmidt's not going to play 160 games, and he shouldn't. So you're going to have to start tinkering with this lineup both in this last game against Arizona and to start the Pittsburgh series, because you don't have an off day for a while. And then even when you do, then you're going to go another long double-digit day stretch without an off day. So we're going to have to see a lot of lineup turnover, a lot of lineup issues that they're going to have to deal with going forward. So, as we kind of look ahead to this next game here, you have a chance to at least salvage the series. And I think that's what you should be looking forward to at this point. If you're able to salvage the series, you're able to go in here and you're able to win this final game at home, you leave 4-2 through your first 2 series, which is, I think most of us would have taken when the season began. And then you go 4-2, you head on the road with the ace of your staff to try to go to 5-2. That's the goal here. And you're going to go up against, an Arizona team that has been able to score runs against you. This has not been an issue for them. Merrill Kelly looked good against the Cubs last Friday. We'll see what he's able to do on the mound here, and if the Yankees can kind of bounce back, correct some of those holes in their swing, or if maybe some of the little fresh blood, that hasn't had a chance to play much can help spark the lineup again. Again, the late rallies are nice, and the home runs at the end are nice, but this team won a lot against Milwaukee. Yes, on the home runs, but on getting consistent production throughout the lineup and putting the ball in play. And they need to get back to doing that. And obviously we'll have, Merrill Kelly's a good pitcher, but he's not as dominant as Zac Gallen, so you'll have a better opportunity. And we'll see what Cookie Carrasco, has in his first start. Pitched a couple innings of relief in the Milwaukee series to kind of get his arm going, but he had an excellent spring training. Made the roster out of camp and is kind of ready to show what he can do. And he's going to have an opportunity to kind of stop this at 2. You don't want to get swept at home, especially coming off of a sweep yourself. It kind of kills all the momentum that you had. So I'm excited to see if they bounce back here. I'm excited to see what the lineup is going to look like. There's a lot of different ways that they can go here. Because, if Goldie gets the day off, I do wonder if they'll maybe even put Bellinger in the leadoff spot, depending on if Wells gets the day off. How many of these guys are going to get the day off for you? Maybe, if Wells or Goldschmidt don't get the day off today, maybe they're probably going to get the day off against Pittsburgh. Do you want to give Wells the day off with Fried on the mound? Do you want Esquera calling a Fried game, or do you want him calling a Cookie Carrasco game? There's so many different elements that Aaron Boone's going to have to settle through, both tonight and, going into the morning when you guys are listening to all this. We'll see. But there is some adversity now. There is some changes that are going to need to be made. Nothing drastic. We're not sending anybody to AAA. We're not sending anybody to Scranton. But there needs to be some changes in this lineup, both out of, like we said earlier, both out of necessity for off days and to kind of see if we can get a spark. And some of the young guys that are hitting well, in that first series kind of cooled off a little bit. And there's been a lot of strikeouts in these last 2 games. So basically my takeaway and what you need to know about this game is Just wasn't good enough. There were flashes. Rodon looked good late. The Yankees offense looked good late. But they dug themselves too big of a hole. And they can't afford to let that happen again. So there's other takeaways from this game. Good to see Wells had a couple hits in this game, double off the wall. Bellinger had some really nice plays in center field. There was a really interesting play. Corbin Carroll hit one 408 feet to dead center field. It had like a 930 expected batting average that Bellinger was able to flag down for a catch in this game. So it's, Jason Mingus was able to play the full game. I know we talked on yesterday's podcast about, him getting subbed late. And again, you wonder if it was a closer game, would they have subbed him out defensively late? Ends up, striking out to end the game. But it's just not enough. And I know Yankees fans are going to be upset. There's going to be a lot of conversation about, the third base spot again. Oswaldo Cabrera made some nice plays in the field, but he gets pinch hit for late for Pablo Reyes, which I know people are like, if you got a pinch hit with Pablo Reyes, you probably should have had an upgrade there. They weren't getting consistent contributions, particularly until the ninth inning of this game. And, the ninth inning has made the box score, both for individual players and for the team itself, look better. But they got beat down tonight. And I hope that we will see some consistent change for this team in the finale. I'm glad they didn't quit, and I'm glad they fought to the end. But at the end of the day, they need to start stringing some more of these wins together, because given the state of their rotation, some of the injuries and stuff that they're dealing with, they're not going to be a team that you would project to have a lot of wiggle room in the middle to later parts of the season. So these are the games that you can't afford to go on too many losing streaks of multiple games like this if you still hope to be a postseason contender, because I don't think you're starting out with a base of 98, 97 wins. You're probably going to be a low to mid 90 win team and probably a low 90 win team. So you need to win the games at home, and you need to win these games that you have some of your top guys on the mound. And right now, I know he's a polarizing figure, and he deserves it given the way that he's pitched in his time in New York. But you don't want to lose too many games where you have Rodon on the mound. You don't want to lose too many games where you have Fried on the mound, because you don't know what you're going to get from Cookie Carrasco in this game. Will Warren's a rookie. Loved what he did, but he's a rookie. You don't know when Clark Schmidt's coming back. You don't know when Luis Gil's coming back. Garrett Cole's not coming back. So you need to win the games with your high-priced guys on the mound. And through both the fault of Rodon and this offense, they weren't able to get it done. And they've now dropped 2 in a row. So I am... It's not time to panic. It's April 3rd. Still have a winning record. But things will look a lot better with a win. A lot better at 4-2 to start this first road trip of the season than 3-3. So I'm interested to see what the lineup looks like. Keep an eye out for that. Luckily, this is not a day game after night game situation, so they will have a little time to rest and see what they want to do to construct this lineup. And I would love to hear from you as well. What do you think that they should do with this lineup? Do you think they need to make any significant shakeups for the long term, or if it's just a shakeup that they need to make for the next couple games to kind of get things rolling here? And we'll see what they're able to do and see if they can get to Merrill Kelly. And whatever they're able to do, we will be back tomorrow with a full recap of it and previewing the series ahead. And let's hope that we have some more positive news to discuss for the New York Yankees coming off of their game against the Diamondbacks, that they can bounce back. Maybe we get some new contributors. Maybe we get some guys off the home run schneid. And, who knows? If Cookie Carrasco can carry over what he did in spring training, if he stays hot, he can win this game. We'll find out, and we'll talk about it tomorrow.